to play. We've got stories for your day. From Onefinity, it's clear to see the finest CNC. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with design.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Cutting Edge Podcast, presented by Onefinity CNC. I'm one of your hosts, Stone. You can find me at Stonefinity. And joining me as always is my counterpart.
Morgan Hop. Yeah, Morgan Hop. You can call me Morgan. That's what my friends call me. And I guess you couldn't find me at Morgan Hop. But we are both very active on all of Onefinity's social media channels. So
yeah, if you're looking at anything Onefinity, it's coming from one of us too. So we have a little special announcement for this episode. This is the very first episode that is sponsored. So while this is a branded podcast, it is presented by Onefinity. We are both employed by Onefinity. We do have a new sponsor, and that sponsor is in place because we're already working together. So I can now proudly say that the Cutting Edge Podcast is sponsored by Bits and Bits. So we will now be offering a little something for our listeners. So Bits and Bits has been kind enough to offer us a 20% off coupon for their website. So you can use code Onefinity Cutting Edge for 20% off. But Bits and Bits is one of the two brands that we sell, obviously. Morgan and I use them a lot for our projects. So we'll be sure to show you which Bits and Bits, that's a tongue tie.
which Bits and Bits?
The Bits and Bits. We'll try to do a better job of showing you kind of what we're using in our project so you can see that stuff. But yeah, make sure you check out that coupon. Go use it on their website. Get you some good bits for your Onefinity CNC. So
Yeah, absolutely. And even, if you just buy like a couple bits, they can add up pretty quick. A couple bits will get you $100. So that's that's $20 off right there. If you
I mean, a bit's usually 40, $50 for a bit. So by the time you've bought 4 or 5 of them, you've got a free one. So
yeah, there you go. And in case you didn't know, Bits and Bits provides the two of us, we provide a 1/4-inch downcut spiral bit with every machine that we sell. So when you get a machine, there's a 1/4-inch downcut spiral bit included, so that you right out of the box, once you get it set up, which again doesn't take all that long, you've got a bit that you can start cutting right away. You don't have to go and order something somewhere else. You just get right to it. So they're fantastic bits. They're made here in the USA. There's tons of bits on the market, and many of them are made overseas or by other means. But they make their bits here in the USA, and they stand by their product. So we love working with Bits and Bits.
So now that we've made that little announcement, what do you want to talk about today, Morgan? What have you been thinking about this week?
So today we are talking about things that you can do with a CNC that you really just can't do otherwise. There's certain things that you can do that there's no substitute for CNC. And so we're going to kind of go over a few things where there's just really no substitute for CNC. And so you basically, if those are the things that you want to do, you've got no choice. You got to have a CNC, whether it's ours or someone else's. If it's a big one or a small one, you got to have a CNC to do it. So we're going to kind of run through some of that stuff. I've done some of these projects where I can't imagine being able to do them any other way. Definitely not by hand. And if I was able to do them, I would have needed some sort of template or some sort of jig that I wouldn't have had the ability to make myself. So I would have had to get it from somebody else with a CNC. Mm-hmm. So it kind of, all roads lead to CNC on certain projects.
So you just mentioned this in that kind of explanation, but when you brought this topic up to me, the first thing that came to my mind was templates. Whether it's for like a router with a template bit or something that you're going to trace whatever with a pen or something, like, and cut with a jigsaw, like you have templates that are specific shapes and sizes and have like very accurate dimensions. That's something that I've done with the CNC that I know, like, I I had tried other ways. I had tried to make templates with like a jigsaw or things, but you just don't get the same finish. You don't get the same dimension, the same detail. Um, so I'm sorry. I just looked at your title for the first time. Uh, oh, sorry.
For
That
those
really.
who are listening and not watching, my title, we have titles, and it puts up our name and title on if you're watching on video. And today mine they change every week. And today mine is former Teletubbies writer. I thought that was funny because they don't actually use words. They just make noises.
Anyways, wow, that really threw me off. But being able to create a template that one you're going to use for yourself, or if you're going to make templates for like a specific project that you want to sell, having the ability to cut that on a CNC, whether that's a CNC router or a laser, that gives you the ability to make an exact template that is completely repeatable without any differentiation between one product and the next.
Right. So you can make templates to sell to other people who don't have a CNC. That's one way that a lot of people who have a CNC make some extra scratch, or that might just be their whole living. But if you've got a CNC, there's really no reason to make templates on your CNC. You can just cut out what you need on the CNC. You don't have to make a template and then bring it over to your like router table and use a pattern bit or something. So, and before I had a CNC, I used a lot of templates, and I had to buy them from people who did have a CNC. And your selection is limited to what's already out there, what's already available. So if you have a specific shape or size of something in mind and it's not available, you kind of you're limited to what is out there that you can buy from somebody else. So, and also using a template, although repeatable and very accurate, if if you've got good technique with using a router table and a pattern bit, you still have to operate the tool, and you still have to do it over and over and over again. And that takes up all of your focus. It's not like a CNC where you can, put an array of this specific shape that you need down, and the machine just cuts it out for you while you're eating a sandwich. So,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. The CNC allows you to eat lunch.
I know we talk about it a lot, and being able to do other things while the CNC is running. But like if you are someone who's making a lot of templates, specifically like acrylic templates is what comes to mind, between all of the machine cutting, you take all the stuff off, like there is still some cleanup, and like you have to package things. So like if you're running the machine, that gives you time to be doing those things and getting things packaged to be sent out or whatever that may be. In my case, I think of templates in a little bit different way, because I had someone reach out to me asking about alignment tools for like DTF and DTM printing for like shirts and stuff. You make your design, you print it out, and then you have to press it onto your material. And with a clear acrylic tool, you can put that upper and at the bottom of it. It makes it super easy, and because it's clear acrylic, you can also see through it. So I've cut those on the CNC, and those work really well. So that's a little bit different, and it's outside of woodworking, but that goes to show you there's a need for CNC cut things outside of just the woodworking space where you're using a router template or something like that.
And real quick, Stone, just for our listeners who are just now joining us, what does DTF stand for?
Direct to film.
Direct to film. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
It stands for direct to film.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to clarify that. I didn't think about that. But yeah, direct to film or DTM, direct to material. So if you skip the plastic sheet and you put it directly on there, and it bakes it on there instead of having to do it on the plastic first. But yeah,
I've just and you talking about that, I was totally unaware of that process. I've heard of and seen a lot of direct to garment printing,
mhm,
DTG, where they basically it's like a printer that just prints directly
yeah,
onto
that would be like the
fabric.
DTM, direct to material. It's just a
Yeah.
different term for it. But yeah, where it prints it directly on there. But I've become familiar with it because one of my best friends from high school, um, his now wife runs a business where she does a lot of that printing stuff. So she had reached out and asked me to make some of those acrylic alignment tools for her, specifically because when they are clear acrylic, you can see through them and see how it lines up on the shirt. So, um, but that was a super easy project. But it's something that I never would have thought of just because I'm not in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And just while we were sitting here, I thought of another thing that is something that is specific to a CNC. It's not something that you would really I can't think of any way that you'd be able to do it by hand unless you were just extremely skilled with like a Dremel or something. But there's attachments that you can put onto your CNC that they're not routers for cutting and they're not lasers for cutting or engraving, but things like a diamond bit. Um,
Like a
oh,
drag knife
yeah, well, there's drag knives for
or
one.
like
So, or there's also a diamond tip bit
engraving. Yeah.
engraving bit, yeah, basically, which I use to engrave glass. I used to etch glass on the CNC, and I can't think of any other apparatus where I would be able to use that or something similar to be able to etch glass. And then the
Mhm.
same thing with a drag bit. Like if you are cutting leather or paper or something like that without a template or just being very careful with an X-Acto knife, there's really no substitute for the accuracy of a CNC
Mhm.
and the attachments that you can use with it. And then again, one of which being also a laser. You can't freehand a laser.
No, definitely not.
No. So yeah, there's obviously there's standalone units. A lot of CO2 lasers and other types of lasers are just standalone units that, you know. But with a CNC, um, especially the lasers that we sell, the diode lasers from JTech, you can attach that onto the spindle mount of your CNC, and bada bing, bada boom. Now you got a laser. It's not
Yeah.
something you'd be able to do otherwise.
Makes it a lot easier just because like you do have the flexibility to go back and forth too. But I mean, being able to being able to do these things, I feel like those are all pretty well known things. So I'm trying to think of what are some things that are specific to being done on a CNC that a lot of people don't think about. Like where is there money to be made in this space?
So one thing I can think of that's actually something that I'm doing today. Um, I just finished one tool path, and as soon as we're done with the podcast, I'll keep it going. But those 3D topography carvings. So if you had there's a geographical area, you can get a 3D model of that, and say like I've done the Grand Canyon. Now I'm doing the Catskill Mountains, but I mean you can do pretty much anything. There's a whole video about that. I found a really easy way to get those models. That tended to be the most tricky part of it for me. Carving it's actually pretty easy, but that's not something that you would be able to do by hand. Even the most skilled, uh, if you just have like a master level technique with a hand router, you can't do it.
No.
You could some people who are very skilled with like a Dremel tool, maybe, but it would take a very, very, very long time and it still wouldn't be totally accurate. So that's one of those things that there's really no substitute for a CNC for. You have to have it to do that.
Well, in that case, like there's so much data from the topographical map that you're taking and turning into a file. There's there's no way to make everything exact without a machine.
Yeah, well, and not just that. I mean, I guess really any 3D carving. So a lot things that's something that's popped up a lot as of late is that crocodile or alligator swimming through the water. A lot of people are making those. It's an STL file that you can drop into your toolpathing software and it'll carve it out. And people are just blown away by it. Like my neighbor, a couple of doors down, saw one that I made, and he was just like, couldn't believe it that I made this, that I had a machine. I was like, it's actually really easy. I mean, it just put wood down and it just goes. Of course, you do have to know,
It's
know
not
what
quite
you're doing with tool pathing. I mean, but it's not complicated in the least. But there's no way that I would have been able to do that by hand unless I'd spent my entire life mastering hand carving stuff. Which who has that kind of time?
Yeah. Oh, this is another good example. Um, and not just the project, but specifically like a specific aspect of the project. But last week, I went up to Tools Today, and I spent some time with Matt in their shop. And one of the things that we did was we set up the Onefinity and got it all configured. And then before I left, I made sure that we did at least one carve, so I could say that I'd showed Matt how to use it. So um, Matt would have been fine without me. But we did do your stool. We made one of the flat pack stools that Morgan designed. If you've seen that YouTube video, if not, go watch it. It's up on our YouTube. I can't remember what episode it was, but
That was one of the really early ones.
Morgan shows you how to make a flat pack stool out of a piece of, I believe it's 2 foot by 4 foot, 3/4 material. And
I think it's like $18 or so, or at least around here it is $18 or so at Lowe's.
yeah, so about 20 bucks. And he'll teach you how to make a stool with this video. And then in the end, you end up with your finished product. But we cut this stool. And one thing that is specific to the CNC that you can't necessarily do with just, a drill bit or whatever is when we cut this for the CNC or on the CNC, we programmed it so that the tolerances are exact, so that when you put your piece of 3/4 material, which is really, in our case, it was 0.73 inches. So you can adjust those tolerances in your software so that when your CNC cuts it, it is exact.
Yeah,
and that
and
gives you the
that's a good.
opportunity. Like you can't do that with a Forstner bit and a chisel without a lot of work at refining and trying to make sure your mortise is exactly how you want it. Like the CNC, it cuts it and it does it perfect the first time. There's no going back and adjusting. So that was something that I think is very, I guess, valuable that the CNC provides.
Yeah, and that brings up another good point is that the material that you buy is never the dimension that it is labeled as by the retailer. So like if it says it's 3/4 inch plywood, it's not 3/4 inches. It's never 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
So to reconcile that with the cutting tools that you have available, there's 3/4 inch bits. But again, if you cut something out with a 3/4 inch bit and the material that you have isn't actually 3/4 of an inch, you're going to have slop in your mortise or your, whatever you're making. So using a CNC with tool pathing software allows you to make those adjustments for odd sizes that aren't standard factory sizes. So I was telling Stone earlier, like we were trying to think of stuff that you can do with a CNC that there's really no substitute for. Even something simple as just a simple hole. If you've got to cut a hole or like a pocket or a mortise or in something, Forstner bits come in standard sizes. So 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8, 3/4, 5/8 diameter. But if what you're trying to get into that hole is not exactly that diameter, you can't adjust the size of that Forstner bit. So um, you've got to figure out how to adjust for that when trying to put together mating parts. But with the CNC and tool pathing software, you can make those adjustments in the software. Your CNC will cut it, it'll cut it accurately, and then your mating parts will fit together like butter.
Hmm. Without a CNC, aside from template, is there any other way you can do that? I'm trying
Uh,
to that's a real question. That wasn't just a posed question to get him talking. I really am curious.
I mean,
Oh,
a template really is the only other way to get, kind of like odd, not standard size stuff. But unless you have the ability to make that template and make it accurately, you're
yeah,
stuck having to try to find somebody who, again, has a CNC.
yeah.
So, that's one of those things where like all roads lead back to the need for a CNC at some point.
Mm, this is something that I'm thinking, or I've just thought of, is um, a lot of people use the CNC to make trays, and trays, in and of themselves, there's nothing spectacular or special about them. But being able to carve a tray and without going back and using any type of uh, rounding bit with a bearing, you can round the inside corners of your trays, which is something that is otherwise a lot of effort because you have to go in with a template bit, or I guess a rounded template bit.
Yeah,
And
a
then,
radius
yeah,
bit with a bearing, and then you have to go in, and then with multiple, depending on the size of the radius, you have
you
to do
have
it
to do
in
multiple
multiple
passes.
passes to get the depth right
Mhm.
for that radius on like
Yeah.
a router table. It's nightmarish. I've done it and it sucks. It's
Well,
terrible.
the reason I thought about it was the project you were working on this past week was,
Yeah, so I made a tray where I really wanted the radiuses at the bottom of the tray to have a 1 inch radius, and there are like cove box core bits that do have that big of a radius, but the bottoms of these trays, you know what, I'll grab it in a second, but the bottoms of these compartments in the tray are deep. They're so deep that that bit um would not actually fit into it. It didn't have the reach, didn't have the length of cut to be able to reach all the way to the bottom of the tray as deep as I wanted to make it. So I switched gears, and instead of doing it as a 3D carve and relying on the radius that's just built into the tool, I did a 3D carve on the CNC to be able to cut that radius with a smaller ball nose bit. Um, that I would not have. I mean, as far as I could tell, there's no bit that's that big of a radius that has that long of a length of cut available in the market. So I had to do it on the CNC as a 3D toolpath, which again, there would be really no other way to do that by hand or by any other means.
mhm. It
It's
was
not
just
it's not a very fancy looking. I mean, it's, you'd look at it and you wouldn't think that it's anything, all that difficult, but just the way that it was designed, it had to be done on a CNC. There would be no other way to do it. I'll grab it real quick. So
it's just
entertain the people.
but I mean, it makes me think it's not just the design, but it's you have to think about what issues am I going to run into when I'm making this? Because when you're designing something, if you just design it as a finished product and you don't think about what steps am I going to have to take to get this to a finished product, a lot of times you run into obstacles that you didn't foresee, like not having a bit that's long enough unless you run it as a 3D carve. Um, so it just another thing that goes to show you, if nothing else, CNC is very handy to have around. But
Absolutely.
Trey,
So I went and grabbed this tray. I'm working on a video about this today, but you can, I don't know. So I apologize for anybody who is listening and not watching because you have no visual to go off of, but it's got 4 compartments, 2 large ones, 2 small ones. And the big ones, the walls are tapered a little bit so that they're smaller at the bottom and then they kind of flare out toward the top. But these bottom corners are a 1 inch radius, and there was no bit available to do that, so I used a 3/8 inch ball nose roundover, and I have one from Bits and Bits, our sponsor, uh, that has an extra long reach. So it was no problem getting that all the way down here and then clearing out the bottom. Took a lot of passes because with 3D carves, you have to do a very, and well, with ball nose bits, you have to do a very small step over so that there's not a whole bunch of lines in between the passes. But that bit worked perfectly because 3/8 ball nose was it's a big enough diameter that it didn't take like way too long. But the extra long reach, that's what made it possible to be able to get down into this deep enough and make it the shape that I wanted it. So finishing up a video on this today, so that video will be available soon. I'm showing you how to kind of switch gears if you have something in mind that you wanted to do as a 2D carve, and there's really just uh, the physical limitations of the tools that are available. If that is preventing you from getting the end product that you want, how to kind of switch gears and make it happen with your machine and the tools that you have available. So that's the point of that.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
You bet. So there's I think kind of the like the logical, the reason that we wanted to talk about this today is it seemed like having a CNC is obviously optional, and it depends on what you want to accomplish as a woodworker, or just as a maker in general, or as a business. You know, like if you want to uh, start a website or have a Shopify website and sell products as either as a side hustle or as a small business. Um, there's people that do it all the time without a CNC, and they make and sell all kinds of stuff. But there are certain things that you can only do with a CNC, and so that's one thing that you want to consider if you are trying to branch out and start a business or just really gas up your side hustle. Um, the CNC can do things that will absolutely give you an edge to be able to do that a lot of people don't have, and that's kind of at their own peril.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where, like, yes, the CNC kind of sets you apart, but also you do have to take the time to learn how to use it. So if you don't have the time and the want to or the know-how for just, learning that type of machinery, um, then it's good to have a buddy that has a CNC, I would say.
That's true. It's like it's good to have a buddy with a boat. I have no desire to have a boat of my own because something something
I
that
don't
people
know
say
if I
about
would put it
boats
that.
is that they are just a hole in the water that you pour money into.
That is
I don't want my own boat, but it's great to have a friend with a boat.
that is some terrible advertising right there. No, I am going to say the opposite, because for me, having a CNC is not just I mean, obviously, yes, this is my job, but at the same time, like, I use it all the time for things, whether it's at house or here at the shop. Like, the CNC is a practical tool to have when it really comes down to it, because you're not limited to hardly anything. But as far as like what you can make with it, you can make just about anything with a CNC these days, just because the software makes it super easy to design now. Um, Once you've learned to design in Toolpath, like the limitation is what can I think of, and
Yeah.
then you literally take your material, you make your parts for whatever it is you want to do, and then in a couple hours, or depending on how long it takes to cut everything, maybe a couple days, whatever, you have you can have a full kitchen. I know one guy right now who's using his Onefinity. He's using an Elite Foreman, and he is redoing all of his kitchen cabinets, and that's the only tool he's using is his Onefinity CNC. So it's not just like it's not something. It's I know you weren't saying it's actually like a boat where it's just a money pit, but it is something that like you can throw a lump sum of money at a CNC, and then that CNC can be a way for you to make money for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of making kitchen cabinets, that after this video that I'm doing about the tray, that's going to be my next kind of more involved project is showing people how to make cabinets on the CNC. So
Hmm.
there's a little area in my house that's kind of it's an awkward size and shape that there's there's nothing that is really available on the market, furniture or fixture wise, that would really work there. So I figured it'd be cool to make just like a small little cabinet unit with a nice countertop there. Still kind of playing around with the design. I'm thinking that I'm going to have a cabinet on the two sides and then have a space in the middle so that my daughter can use it as like a desk to do her homework, because she doesn't have space in her bedroom to do that because it is full of Barbie things. Um,
Your
and
face
when I say
all right there.
it's yeah, I'm I'm just trying not to throw up thinking about it. But it's just full of Barbie things. No room for a desk. But so this is what I came up with. Um, Again, sorry if you're listening and not watching. Um,
If you're just listening,
you don't
it's
have
worth.
any kind of visual, but anyway, that's kind of that's like to scale, that's the space that it would be going in. And then I was thinking about doing just kind of like regular shaker style doors, but I also designed these
Oh, it's got a
kind of
3D
funky
texture
wavy
on it.
doors.
Yeah,
And if I do these, then I would do the whole thing out of a darker wood like walnut or
yeah.
cherry or something. I think those would look cool, but it might
That'll,
look too different from the other stuff in the house. But point being, uh, you can do stuff like that with a CNC, and that's not something that you would really be able to do, or maybe you could, but it wouldn't be advisable to do otherwise.
well, seeing that kind of reminds me of a project Jeff from Two Moose did recently. Or
Oh,
Jeff,
the
I guess,
tambour
yes. So Jeff and
tambour
Jeff
door, yeah.
from Two Moose Design. If you haven't seen it, they basically took two panels of, I guess it was black walnut or something like that, some sort of walnut it looked like, but they carved a 3D texture into these two panels, and then they cut them into a bunch of little splices and made tambour doors out of them. So just they glued a fabric to the back of the pieces of wood, and then they fit in a channel, and then when you slide them all together, it makes this 3D texture. But when you slide them apart, it kind of breaks it up.
I think you know what we're thinking of, like kind of bigger concepts, but even just like this, just small things that would be easy to overlook. Just being able to like drill a bunch of like holes. That's not something that you would necessarily need the CNC to do. I mean, you've got a power drill and you've got all of your holes, all of your hole locations marked accurately. You could do it, and you could do it pretty well and pretty accurately. Um, but it would take forever,
Yeah.
and it still wouldn't be as accurate if you need them in a specific pattern. I know that Stone is making something where he's got to have a bunch of holes cut in a specific pattern. um, I'm not sure how important the accuracy is there, but it's something that, if if the accuracy was very important, that's not something that you would want to do with just a power drill
Yeah.
by hand.
Yeah. I've got a really, really big project I'm working on right now that is using a drilling operation because it is just a bunch of holes in specific spots, but those specific spots in my case at least are very important because if they don't line up, things are not going to move correctly with this piece. So I have to make those exactly the same spacing on every single hole, and there's like 104 holes I had to cut. So
Yeah.
it would have taken me hours to do, and the CNC can do it in a matter of 15 minutes. So it's a no brainer.
Oh, just thought of another thing. So, and this is something that you'll see. It's probably one of the most common uses for a CNC, but just like an engraved sign. Take a 90 degree or 60 degree, whatever V bit, and just engrave lettering or some kind of design into it. That's not something that you could, or if you could, wouldn't want to do by hand with a router or a Dremel or whatever. Just something as simple as a carved sign. Um, that's something that the CNC and some people make a killing, just selling carved signs with the CNC, and they're super easy to do. Could not be easier.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way to do it, unless you have some sort of template, which if you're doing custom stuff, a template wouldn't really work because custom by its very nature changes every time.
Well, and that's one of those like people will do like signs with a hand router, but at the end of the day, like you can tell the difference. So it really depends on kind of what the setting is. I know like a lot of people will do a hand routed sign for a cabin or something, and that's not a big deal. It kind of fits the motif.
Yeah, I mean that's it, that they look the way that they're supposed to or they're expected to look.
But if you're doing a sign for a business where you want it to be clear and concise with nice clean lines, CNC is the way to go.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of 3D carvings, again, I'm sorry for the listeners and not the watchers, but if you've ever seen the movie Army of Darkness, the book in that movie, it's called the Necronomicon, and it's a silly campy horror movie, but this is the Book of the Dead, and that's like one of my favorite movies. So I just made this, and then
It's really
the
creepy, but it really does look like a book.
yeah, right. It's just pieces of maple. It's thin strips of maple. That
Mhm.
this I could have done on the CNC, but I didn't feel like it was faster to just do it on the router table than it would have taken me to toolpath it.
Yeah.
So I just got like um I think like a 15 or 20 degree V bit and put it on the router table and just ran it along the fence and moved it a little bit because I didn't want it to be uniform because it's
Yeah.
supposed to look kind of funky.
Like a
So I
war.
just kind of moved it inconsistently on purpose. But yeah, that's what the pages are. But yeah, this I did in a couple hours one afternoon on a Saturday, and there's no way I would have been able to do this otherwise.
It's really cool.
Well,
But
like I said, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that we're missing, and if there's anything that we missed that you guys do on the CNC and it's like your lifeblood, there's no way that you would have been able to do it otherwise. Let us know in the comments wherever you are seeing this. If it's on YouTube, or can people leave comments on Spotify?
they can. You
They
can
can.
leave comments on Spotify. No one has ever done it, but it is a option.
So you could be the very first person to ever comment on one of our podcasts
This is
on
true.
Spotify.
But yeah, check it out. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. It's on all the places. But we'd appreciate it if you check it out. And if you would leave us a nice review, that would help us greatly.
Yes. Unless you hate it.
If you
Well,
hate
actually,
it,
if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
like my mama said, you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. No. One other thing, I will be this this will come out Friday, I assume. I guess we could put it up before then. We haven't done a podcast in a few weeks. I'll be
No,
at the
we
Pine Barren
went out
Makers.
last week, didn't we? No, you were out of town
I
last
was
week.
out of town. I was at Tools Today,
Yeah.
and we didn't do one the week before. So
Yeah, we did. We did.
or it was maybe earlier on. Okay, so anyways, this weekend, if you hear this and you're nearby, I'll be at the Pine Barren Makers Fest in Hamilton, New Jersey. So come check us out. We'll have the Onefinity up and running. Sadly, I will not have Morgan with me because this was a very last minute trip, but
Yeah. I will not be there. The restraining order is still outstanding. I don't think it has an expiration date, so I'm
Don't
not allowed
worry.
to go.
he's coming with me anyways. But I'll be there this weekend with them. We'll have a very big project I'll be doing up there that there will be a video on later. Other than that, is there any other Onefinity news? We've got Maker Camp.
It's
coming
not
up.
news, but we will be at Maker Camp in just a few weeks. Very, very excited about that. So we look forward to seeing everybody there.
Is that 3
And
weeks away now?
yeah, it's just like 3 weeks and change. So
Yeah.
it's October, I think like 12th or something.
It's my mom's birthday is that weekend. I should know this.
Well, bring her up.
It is October we'll get it on the 10th. Thursday is when people start arriving. Thursday the 10th through Monday the 14th.
All right. Very exciting. And again, before we close this thing out, this episode was sponsored by Bits and Bits. And to get a 20% discount on your order from bitsandbits.com, the code is 1F Cutting Edge. And again, that is 20% off of your order. They've got all kinds of bits for all sorts of applications. Go and check that out. And thanks, Bits and Bits, for sponsoring this episode.
Yes. And for you listeners who can't, and the letter F, Cutting Edge. So 1F Cutting Edge. I'm going to get you 20% off Bits and Bits, which is
not OF. It's
not OF. That'll
1F.
take you somewhere else. But I think 20% is the largest discount they offer as well. So that's a great deal. You should definitely take a part of. So
Absolutely. Well, I think that about covers it for today. Unless, Stone, you've got anything else, I think we can close this one out and we will talk to you guys. Well, we'll talk to each other so that you guys can listen next week.
Yeah. All right, guys. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. You'll be good.
Gather around, it's time to play. We've got stories for your day. From Onefinity, it's clear to see the finest CNC. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right. Tips and tricks that elevate craftsmanship that's first rate. Join the fun, we've just begun. The cutting edge awaits. On this journey side by side, hear the stories far and wide. From dream to deed with utmost speed, where passion takes its stride. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right.